Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeaMNG.drive, and today we're going to be taking a look at the ETK S-Series. Now, even though this vehicle uses the ETK name, it is a mod, and you can tell because the vehicles that are made by the developers of the game have a little BeaMNG.drive logo next to their name, and if you hover over it, it says BeaMNG Official. So we're going to start off with the S4T version of the car, which is basically the base model version of the vehicle. And even though it's the base model, it has kind of an interesting engine. It has a bi-turbocharged 1.9 liter inline-4 that makes about 186 horsepower. Now, one thing I noticed about these cars that's kind of interesting is the way the transmissions work. So right now, it looks like I'm kind of just cruising along, not really trying to accelerate hard. But actually, I am. I'm accelerating as hard as possible, but the transmissions in these cars, they are super economy tuned, I guess, because they rarely go over 4,000 RPM. And just to demonstrate this again, we're going to come to a stop and floor it from a complete stop, like so. Not letting up at all. It gets to 4,000 RPM. It's like, it's time to shift. Now, it does slow the car down a little bit, but not as much as I expected because the car has a pretty flat torque curve with the bi-turbocharged engine. So overall, if you wanted to go faster, you can pull out the manual one and shift on your own. But really, it's actually not as big as a difference as you'd expect. So anyways, let's get this thing up to speed and get it flying. 100 miles per hour, that's about up to speed. And then we're going to just go up on the hill and maybe get a roll going or land flat pretty much. Can we get an upright? Yes, we can. Now this version of the vehicle is a rear wheel drive, and you can tell that pretty easily right there because those rear wheels are spinning trying to get some traction in the dirt. And now my wheel axle's broken, so we can't drive at all. That's further proof that it's rear wheel drive actually, because if it was the rear axle that broke and you can no longer accelerate, obviously the power is going to the rear axle. So go ahead and reset that, and then we're going to take a look at the manual version of the car so you can see how the manual transmission compares to the automatic. And you'll notice the manual shifts a little bit later than the automatic in arcade mode, but it still doesn't use the full range of RPMs as you would expect. So right here, we're going as fast as we possibly can, and we shift at about 5,000 RPM. So again, about 5,000 RPM. That's 1,000 RPM more than the automatic, but that means there's still 2,000 RPM that is completely untouched when using the arcade shifting mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this thing to come to a stop. We're going to hit Q to change shifting modes to realistic, and now I actually get to choose the gear. So we're going to go ahead and launch this thing, at least as hard as you can launch a car with 180 horsepower, and we could rev it all the way to red line before we shift. May not be the ideal place to shift, but if I have a manual transmission in a video game, I always let that engine cry. Make it rev as high as it possibly can before I shift it, because that's the way WhyBeAres do things. Plus, I drive a rotary in real life. That's also how you just merge onto the freeway and stuff. Okay, not quite, but very close. And from testing, what I've noticed is the arcade transmission is a little bit faster off the line than the manual, but then the manual will catch up to it and easily overtake it. And that is when the game is shifting on both of them. Now, if I'm actually shifting the manual, that is the fastest way to go if you were doing a drag race. So anyways, let's take this thing up to about 100 miles per hour again and crash it right into that sign. I got a little bit of a damage right here. Come on, just clip it. Yes! I wasn't sure if I would hit it. We got it good though, just right on the edge for that small overlap crash test kind of deal, except it's at 100 miles per hour. And actually, that thing held up really well for a 100 mile per hour crash. I think a lot of the damage was absorbed by that spinning motion right there. Because you notice there's actually a little bit of a funkiness with the trunk because so much force was exerted when the vehicle spun around, I think. Maybe it's just the damage from the roofs going all the way back to the trunk. Kind of hard to tell. Overall, though, the way that looks is pretty decent for that high speed of a crash. And now we can go ahead and take a look at the interior of the car. The most interesting thing I've noticed about the interior is that it has a trapezoid-shaped screen. I don't think I've ever seen that before, so that really stood out to me. Otherwise, everything in here seems pretty reasonable for a modern-day car interior. I like that it actually has a bunch of different looks depending on what transmission you have. So we have the manual, so inside it looks like a manual transmission. But if we had the automatic, it would look like an automatic. And then if we get the dual clutch, we actually get paddles on the steering wheel to shift with. So I'm going to pull out one of the ones with the dual clutch real quickly to show you that. And you can see the little paddles, they actually move with the steering wheel. And that's that piece right there for shifting. And then down here we have what you would expect to see in a dual clutch transmission vehicle. And this version of the vehicle also has a different interior color. There are quite a few different options, but this one in particular has the TT Sport option, which gives you some really bright colors in the interior. and it kind of blends that color into the trim on the dash. But the gauges on the dash, there's a little bit of a problem with them. They're in metric. I don't know what a metric RPM is. I know what an imperial RPM is though. So if you go to the parts menu, find the gauges, you can actually change the gauges from metric to imperial, and then it's the kind of gauges an American like me is used to seeing. And if we wanted to, since we're here, we could also show you one more color of the interior. How about we go with the white interior so you can see what that one looks like. And then we're going to get out of this car and drive something else. So the white has some seats that'll look absolutely filthy in about 2 seconds if you have children. Or if you even just drink or eat in your car, those will look filthy the second you go over a bump and spill your soda all over your beautiful white seat. I would really hope that that's like some sort of white leather, although if you look real closely at it, I don't know if that'd be a cloth or leather. There's not enough texture detail to tell for sure. Anyways, out of this car, out of the parts menu, which I should have held up that whole time, and into the next S-Series we're going to be taking a look at, which is the S4TX. And this is pretty much the exact same vehicle we were just driving, except it has the addition of all-wheel drive, which means it should technically be great for off-roading, right? That's how it works. You give a car all-wheel drive and suddenly it's amazing for doing off-roading. Well, not exactly. I mean, you could have taken this thing off-roading with the other setup too and it'd be pretty much just as good. But hey, I'm gonna go climb this mountain anyways now. We're already halfway through it. We're gonna climb this mountain. Did I just lose my front bumper? Yes, I did. That's okay. It was just messing up my ground clearance and making it harder to climb this hill. Okay, this is not a hill. This is a mountain. Come on. All-wheel drive. Go. Not happening. Not happening. Let's just get off of this thing. It's not going to make it. But let's make it down and go really fast and maybe get some damage going. How about we pop up onto that? There we go. Get a roll. That's a good number of rolls. It's about a dozen rolls right there. Upright and not going to drive the weight. Ooh, we could do a little bit. The rear is totally ruined. But the front will keep pulling along ever so slightly to get back to the place and then get to the Corny Express Limited. Hello, Corny Express Limited. And that actually, I think, ruined the car, right? Nope, nope, nope. It's still good. Still good. It wasn't the wheel axle I thought would break right there. Anyways, let's just taking a quick look at this damage. Except for the rear going full on Back to the Future, it looks pretty good. So, on to the next version of the vehicle. We're going to be taking a look at the S6T. And this one is basically the same as the S4T we were driving earlier, except it has a turbocharged 3-liter inline 6 engine that makes 244 horsepower. That is about 60 horsepower more than the other vehicle we were driving earlier. And this one, the transmission seems to shift when you would want it to. It looks like it holds the gear for a lot longer and then goes for it. So I'm thinking probably the transmission was really set up for this vehicle and then they just say, okay, put that transmission on the other one too. We are done. But on this one, it works really well, and I would expect the manual and the automatic and me shifting to be a lot closer than the S4T version of the car we were driving earlier. Oh yeah, look at that slide. That was a beautiful slide, actually. Nice and controlled, and no drama there. All right, let's get this thing going real fast. We're gonna fly into the mountain over here again. We did this before, but this time we're doing it at a different angle. Oh goodness, we lost all our speed just bouncing right there. We only have radiator damage. If I flip this thing over fast enough, it should still be able to keep driving. Engine is starved of oil. Come on, get upright. There we go. Front suspension's a little bit ruined. My car's all looking funky. We could drive it a little bit and pull it along, but that's not going to be too enjoyable. So we'll just get a new one, and this time let's try to drive on a different part of the road. We've been driving on the same part of the road this whole time. I need a little bit more variety. We're going to go the opposite direction here, and we're going to slam into the buildings that are a little bit down this road. We should be going at a pretty decent speed for that, and we won't lose all our speed bouncing in the dirt, hopefully. Because that disappointed me. I was going so fast, I was expecting a huge crash, and it just kind of gradually slowed down, and it kind of bounced the bumpers off. It was boring! This 110 miles per hour is slowing down a little bit as we go through the dirt, but still hitting that wall at about 95 miles per hour. And what is that piece doing? Skating along. I'm out of here. I'm done with this. Stop crashing me. I'm gone. Yeah, well, you're going to be back on my car in a minute when I reset it. So taking a look at the damage there, I see a pretty good crash. One thing that's kind of interesting is all the stuff on the right side of the car got shifted over to the left, it looks like. That's pretty interesting looking. Anyways, let's go ahead and reset this guy. And then we're going to take a look at the next car on the list, which is the S6TX. And this is a lot like the S4T and the S4TX, where this is the exact same car we were just driving, but it has all-wheel drive. Now, with the all-wheel drive, it does have an open differential if you're curious. And the rear is also an open differential, so no limited slip in this version of the car. If you want a limited slip differential, you can get one. You just need a higher end version of the car. So let's do a little bit of off-roading with my all-wheel drive. That's not how you off-road at all. Off-roading does not usually include flight or fire. Those are not part of off-roading. You know, I actually really like that red interior with the white car, except it's going to be black soon as it gets burned. Anyways, I want to go ahead and pop over to a new map, so let's just go ahead and go to Small Island, USA, and we'll go to the industrial area. That sounds good. Next version of the S-Series we're going to be taking a look at is the S6TX ETK Exclusive, which is the longest named version of the vehicle. So what does the exclusive get you? Well, it gets you exclusive badging on the rear that says that it's exclusive, and every version of the vehicle does have its own badging. And every version of the vehicle does have its own wheels, but these wheels are the exclusives. They're very fancy, actually. I really have to admire the way those wheels look. They're pretty cool looking. And then we have this chrome trim right here, which isn't normally present on any other version of the vehicle. Otherwise, though, pretty much the same as the vehicle we were driving earlier. One thing I noticed about this car that I never really paid attention to up until right now is it actually has daytime running lights on the vehicle itself. But if you get those into the darkness, they unfortunately don't appear to make anything brighter. And to really just demonstrate that to you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it nighttime. So you can see how little those lights actually do, but they do light up on the car. And it looks really sinister right there with those really thin lights. But I can't see nothing, so we're going to go ahead and bring it back to daytime. Make sure it's not on play so it doesn't become nighttime later on. And then if we wanted to, though, we could always just turn on the lights. And I could use the fancy new menu system to do that. We could go electrics, and we can say turn on the headlights, and I want them on high, or I want them on low, and you can actually see a little bit of a difference in the way it looks on the car and a little bit of a difference in what it lights up. So high, you really see the trees. Low, there may or may not be trees there. Off, there are no trees there. And you can also turn on the light bar if it had one, but it doesn't. You can use the signals though. Those function as you'd expect, left and right. I actually really like using the menu for this kind of stuff. Just woo, spinning around and stuff. Got fog lights on or off, and we got hazard lights. They'll go on or off, and that's all the lights we can play around with. So we'll go ahead and hit the fun stuff button. Make everything fall apart. Those are all the parts to the car. I love doing that. So fun to do that. And then on the left over here, you just have the longest list. Everything's broken. What have you done, WhyBeAre? Yeah, I'm sorry, I broke the car. And it still wraps up, but that's all that'll happen. We'll go ahead and reset that, and we can drive this thing around a little bit. Try to do some dirt driving with this thing. Now, if you have the all-wheel drive version of the car, this is probably really what the all-wheel drive was intended for, is driving through a little bit of a dirt road, or maybe getting yourself through snow. Not super serious, crazy off-roading like I was trying to do earlier, where I climb a mountain like it's nothing. That's where you need an actual off-road vehicle. This, I mean, you could do this with any version of any vehicle pretty much, unless it's super low to the ground. But you got the all-wheel drive to help you about a little bit. Although if you bottom out, it really doesn't matter which version of the car you have, because that will damage the car and possibly tear off the front bumper, which I just about almost did right there. I'm surprised it held on. Yeah, seems like it has no problem doing this though, so let's just fly a little. Land it, and upright, come on. Yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going. Get to the road. The exhaust looks kind of funny when you can actually see it, because they're shaped all squared off. So you see, oh yeah, you forget, like the piping to the exhaust isn't actually squared. It's just the exhaust tips that are squares, because it looks cool, but it costs too much to actually make the whole exhaust system that shape, and it'll probably make the car sound kind of funky. And the car is not driving in a straight line, so let's just say hello tree if we can get it to drive it all straight. I can't control this thing. I'm trying to tell it to steer, and it's just like, nuh-uh, WhyBeAre, I am in control now. I'm gonna flip myself over in the least dramatic way possible. Well, fine, do that. You know what I'm gonna do then? I'm gonna replace you with another car. We're gonna go with the next one in the list, which is the S6 TT Sport, which has the fastest version of the engine we can get. It has a bi-turbocharged 3-liter inline-6 engine, so it's the same engine we had before, but instead of just a regular turbocharged engine, we have a bi-turbocharged engine. That gives it about an extra 40 horsepower, so it has 322 horsepower. Now this is a rear-wheel drive, and I was trying to get this thing kind of stuck on a ledge to show you that. There we go. There you can see, front wheels aren't doing nothing. Rear wheels, they are spinning and getting nowhere. Let's try to get this car to where it belongs, because this is the TT Sport version of the car, which has the TT Sport interior. But more importantly, it has the TT Sport suspension setup, so that means the shocks, struts, sway bars, and brakes are all more well suited for a nice paved road than a dirt road. It also has a limited slip rear differential, so it's a little bit more fun to try to slide it around compared to the other ones, which just had an open differential. And then it has a few visual changes as well. One of the more hard to notice ones is that the roof is carbon fiber. And it may not look like it, but if you get close enough to this thing, you could actually tell that is a carbon fiber-like texture on it right there. There you go. There is how you can see it. But from afar, it just kind of looks like it's painted black unless you get pretty close. Like right there, you can pretty easily see it's carbon fiber. From here, kind of just looks like it's painted black. You also have this spoiler on the rear, which you could very easily tell, again, that is carbon fiber. A little bit more obvious on that one compared to the roof, just the way the lighting is, I think. And then we have a high performance radiator, which you really can't see, but apparently it keeps the car cooler for longer periods of time. And then if we have the automatic, we get the dual clutch. If we have the manual, we still get a normal manual gearbox, no different than the ones we had before. All right, let's try to chuck this thing. Fly! Oh, that was a pretty good flight. Can we get it upright? No, not happening unless we do a little bit of pulling. So grab it right here and upright. Up, right on the rocks. Well, we can take a look at the damage real quick. Pretty big amount of damage to the rear, but it should still drive, it looks like. I just gotta do a little bit of yanking here. There we go. Come on, let's see you drive good still. Alright, we got 3 wheels on the ground at most times, it seems like, so this is not going to drive well at all. And yeah, we're just going straight into the hole. Come on, get out the hole. Keep going. Keep going. I believe in you. I shouldn't, but I do. Okay, that's not happening. So anyways, we got one more version of the vehicle that you can select. That is the TT Sport Plus. Only difference between that and the TT Sport is that it has all-wheel drive and a different set of wheels and a different set of badges. Now, what I want to do next is show you some of the parts that aren't used in any vehicle. To do that, I want to go to a racetrack because a lot of these parts seem more race-focused, so we're just going to head to Hirochi Raceway. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to load up a normal version of the ETK S-Series, then I'm going to go to the configurations and load up a special configuration I made that has a bunch of the racing parts installed that come with the mod, but they're not used on any of the vehicles at the moment. So there are a couple of actual visual differences too. One of them is that it has a GTS hood, which is available in either carbon fiber or body colored. This is the carbon fiber version, obviously. It also has a extra license plate holder down here removed because I figured, hey, it would increase cooling in real life. Don't know if it makes actually a difference in the game. And then it just has a whole bunch of parts you can't see on the suspension. So it has like racing struts, shocks, springs, brakes. It has a different differential setup. It has quicker steering, all kinds of things you would expect to see on a higher performance version of the vehicle. But it's still using the same engine you saw in the TT Sport version of the vehicle because that's the fastest option that came with the mod. Now with this setup, I actually chose a little bit different of a tire setup. I don't think I chose the right one to really complement this vehicle. I gotta probably mess with that a little bit more because you really have to fling this thing around the corners you just see me do right there. Because it likes to understeer the way it's set up. Now these parts are all adjustable, so if you really wanted to make this a race car, you adjust them yourself. I didn't spend the time to do that really. I just threw all the parts on it, threw some fatter tires on it, and said, alright, we made a race car. And I believe this thing is using all-wheel drive, which is why I'm able to fling it so easily like that. It looks like I just fling it around the corner and it pulls out. That's because it's using all-wheel drive to pull me along and it's not purely rear-wheel drive. And it also has, I think, a different front differential as well. It just says RLS differential. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I tried to look it up and all I could find was information about restless leg syndrome. Seriously, if you Google that, that's all that comes up. Even if you put RLS differential and the word car, still a restless leg syndrome. It's like, okay, I don't know what that means. I personally have never heard of such a thing though. Anyways, that's a lap with this thing. Definitely could use some tuning from the setup I have here, but I wanted to make sure you guys knew that there were some race suspension parts available to you and that you could even tune them to make them exactly as you want it. So I want to do a little bit of crash testing real quickly, and then we'll pretty much be done with this video. And we're going to go to the best place for crash testing, which is Grid Map. And we're going to spawn up 2 ETK S-Series. We're going to get one fast one for me and one slow one not for me, because that's the most fun way to do crashes. Well, 2 fast ones is also fun, just no 2 slow ones. That's when the crashes get not very fun at all. And what I'm going to do with the slow one is I'm actually going to do a little bit of tilting with it. So we're going to just go and grab it from the very bottom right here and put it up on its side. Perfect. And then we're going to grab the fast one. We're going to go a little bit forward, change the camera to chase because chase camera works better when you're going in reverse. And we are going to bump into that thing and do some damage to the rear of this one and the roof of that one. So how does the rear on this look after that impact? Does it even have a scratch? That thing looks flawless. I see, like, there's broken lights and that's it. I don't see a single dent in that thing. Oh, maybe a little bit if I look at the right angle right there. The trunk isn't quite aligned. But that thing held up crazy good. This side over here, the trunk even still looks aligned. All right, how's the roof looking? I think the roof got pretty damaged from that impact. Let's see if we can yank it up right. Ooh, wow. The roof got caved. So, safe to say, the trunk is stronger than the roof by a lot. That's kind of interesting. Now, I will point out, this is the non-carbon fiber roof. They both have black roofs. Some are carbon fiber, some aren't. Easiest way to tell is get really close to it and you look at the texturing. That looks like a solid color pretty much. This one, you can see when you get the right angle, carbon fiber. Now, is there a difference between those two roofs? Let's do a test and find out. We'll get this car and we're gonna put it on its side as well. A little bit more, come on, there you go. And we're gonna try to hit it at about the same speed even though we're driving the slow car now. I wanted to avoid this yet, here we are. And the easiest way to tell is just look how much damage the slow car gets to compare things. They're going about 30 miles per hour right into them. How much damage we got on this guy? The bumper came off as I was pulling away, so that's not part of this. Just look at the bumper itself. Pretty much everything looks the same there. Very minimal damage on the trunk, just as before. So get this thing upright and see, does it look much better? No, it looks maybe a little bit worse, but that could just be the way it crashed. At this point in time, I would just say they're equal with the carbon fiber, maybe being a little bit weaker because it weighs a little bit less because of the way the game's designed, but I don't think it actually implements like the way carbon fiber would deform or whatever. It's still deforming like metal, just really lightweight metal. Now I'm kind of curious, how much damage can this rear end really take? So I'm going to do is I'm going to park this one right about here. And we're going to get this one, go way far away, and hopefully hit that one at about 100 miles per hour or so. We'll see how much speed I can get in the distance before the hill. It's going to be pretty close to 100. Go and slow it down. I was too focused on getting up to 100 miles per hour. I way overshot the location I was trying to go to. So we'll just get a new one and go at it. And by the way, one thing I haven't mentioned that I should point out, doing that weird glitchy thing that happens sometimes. There we go. Now, one thing I should mention real quickly about this car is it does not have a tow hitch. At least as far as I could tell. I looked at the parts menu and I did not see it. It is possible I overlooked it, but as far as I could tell, there is no tow hitch on this thing. So anyways, we're going to bring this thing down to, well, we should do 16 times slow-mo on this. Make sure the parking brake is on for that one. And then impact in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so 100 mile per hour impact into another one. We got a little bit of fire. A lot of fire, actually. No, wait, maybe it's just a little bit. I can't tell if both of them are on fire or just one. Yeah, there's fire. I can say that for sure. That's fire. Anyway, we'll speed this up. Looks like they've merged into a single car. And then zooming in here, trying to look at the damage as I scream over the loudness of the fire. Looks pretty decent. I see a little bit of spikiness kind of in the deepest parts of it. But overall, pretty decent right there. We'll try to get this car out the way just so we can look at the rear end since we've seen a few front impacts. Like right there, there's a few spikes here and there. But overall, seems pretty reasonable. Can it drive at all since this is... No. If I had the all-wheel drive version, though, it might have. I couldn't remember if I had an all-wheel drive one or a rear-wheel drive. That's definitely just a rear-wheel drive, though. Go ahead and reset that, and then I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to get a all-wheel drive version, slam into it, and see if it'll still drive afterwards. So just real quickly change to a X version. Doesn't matter which one, just give me the X. And then go up to about 120 miles per hour again. This time we'll do it in full speed. And just let it all happen as fast as it does. Okay, get this car out the way and let this one just go. And can we pull it along? Yes, we can! Hear my fireball of death that moves at 14, 15 miles per hour. So yeah, I can't go fast, but it does drive. And there's just that glitchy part that just goes into the sky forever. All right. Overall, though, I'm impressed by the fact that it drives at all after a 100-mile-per-hour impact, you know? This one sure as heck wasn't going to drive. No way, no how. All right, we're going to do a couple more crashes, then we're going to move on to, well, nothing. Well, actually, we'll do some stuff where I don't talk, but we'll basically be done with the video soon, so there's just kind of a side impact. Seems pretty reasonable for that. And we're going to reset this guy, get him set up for a side impact, and this time we're not going to do it at a ridiculous miles per hour. We're going to do this at more like, let's say you're driving along, you take a turn right in front of some dude who's on the highway, or going highway speeds, and he tries to stop, but he can't before he slams into you. So like he's going in the 70s or something, and oh no! Tries to stop, but he can't, smacks right into you. It's a pretty good amount of damage on his car. How's this car look, though? That looks pretty good. Like, I really like the way that crash looked on this side impacted car. It seems like that was a real proper looking crash, and it still drives a little bit. It just pulls to the left pretty hard. If you want to pull to the left so bad, fine. Pull to the left, go up the cliff, and hurt yourself. Or actually do it amazingly smooth somehow. Not the outcome I expected. Alright then. Whatever. Alright, now for fun, we'll do a 100-mile-per-hour side impact. And at that point, I'm kind of out of impacts to do with just the cars, so we'll throw in a few more things into the mix. I know I said I might be done soon, but I'm changing my mind. So 100-ish miles per hour should really damage that thing up. We'll go 8 times slow-mo on this, just a little bit of slow-mo. See it happening, and then full speed. Damage on this car, not as bad as I expected. I guess the other one absorbed a lot of the impact. Oh, yes it did, because that one looks way worse than the other car. Somehow I can still accelerate a little bit, but I don't think it'll drive very fast. No. Come on, just a little bit of speed. Yeah, not happening. Alright, we'll reset that. Then, let's have some fun by throwing it through the large roller. We'll just get a new one and put this car through it instead of getting the other one. Oh, it's a little inside of it, though. Plate to that car right there. And then I gotta remember how to actually use this thing. I think you go Q to change transmission mode, and then you should just put it into gear and... Well, okay, you know what? I forgot how this works, so unfortunately we don't get to see it in use. I thought I knew how. I was completely wrong. So instead, how about we just shove it into the large spinner? Because the roller's not working. I genuinely forgot the control, I guess. See, the spinner, it actually tells you the controls, which is nice. Just says, hey, hit the left bump and right to do it. So left. Oh, that was easy. And I just grab the car. Well, actually, you can drive it in. I was going to teleport it in. We got a ramp for a reason. We use that ramp to drive the car into it. Nice and careful. And then whoop. There we go. And it's going nice and slow, just like I wanted it. And then we can speed it up. I'm gonna bounce it around between the two like this a little bit. That's kind of fun. Getting little damage, and then we go. And then we stop. Kind of far away to see what's happening, though. I'm gonna zoom this in just a tad. I gotta use a manual camera for that. That's the default camera angle. There we go. Alright, now we're gonna go as fast as we possibly can with this thing, which looks like it's going to top out about 50 because of the drag from the car. But either way, the car is getting destroyed. Amazingly, where the drivers would be has not been crushed yet, but everything else pretty much has been crushed. And I think that will do it for my commentary. We're going to have a little bit of silence now as I do what people like that I think is unbelievably boring. So, until next time, this has been WhyBeAre. I'll see ya. Ha! What? Apparently the car doesn't like being yellow, I guess. And on to the next map. Except I can't pull up the menu now. That's great. I can't pull up the menu. There it goes. Never mind. It worked now. Just had to use the car menu instead of the regular one. That was weird. Let's try the yellow again, see if it works. Make sure I didn't mess up the first time or something. Nope. Car just hates being yellow. Alright, I got it. Sorry, I tried to make it yellow. Alright, I'll see you again.